Hi Rob, thanks for letting me know about that. Is that any better now? Thanks Rob. All right, getting there. It's a very fragile setup here, I have to say. Doing it for the first time, and not sure I've got it entirely right, but hopefully it'll get us through. So, welcome everybody to those watching. Hi Tatum, good to see some familial support there for Neil. So what's happening right now? So we've got about 6.5 minutes to go to the start of the race. Riders are warming up in the pen. Some riders will have checked in, bagged their place on the grid, but then gone off back into one of the worlds, Watopia perhaps, and start doing a liting bit of a warm up there. The pen allows you to spin freely, but there's no resistance. So some people will be off going off for a round Watopia at the moment, doing their little infills, getting really warmed up with the heart rate. And then we'll dock back in the last couple of minutes into the pen. So what have we got here? We've got a combination of Wasps, the Southborough District Wheelers riders, and Joe Public as well. So all of the Wasps you should be able to spot if they've adopted the kit there that you can see, the chevron yellow and black kit. And against them, they should have their tags in their names. But you'll see other riders as well in regular kits and without the SW tags in their names when we start. And they are involved in the race as well. Just like a normal crit where we have our club championships, the race could be disrupted or determined by some of those other riders if they catch a wheel or force a split. So lots of variables going on, lots to look out for in the race. Without the SW tags in their names when we start. Right, apparently I've still got a bit of a feedback loop, Rob, so thanks for letting me know on that. I'll see what I can do about that. I'll be back with you in a second, guys. By some of those other riders, they catch a wheel or force a split. So lots of variables going on, lots to look out for in the race. Right, apparently I've still got a bit of a feedback loop, Rob, so thanks for letting me know on that. I'll see what I can do about that. I'll be back with you in a second, guys. Right, apparently I've still got a bit of a feedback loop, Rob, so thanks for letting me know on that. I'll see what I can do about that. I'll be back with you in a second, guys. Right there, so I'm going to stick with that sound. I understand it's not perfect, but I'm at risk of toppling the whole thing over if I fiddle too much with this at this late stage. So welcome viewers, 2 minutes to go now. Things hotting up, we should be getting most riders in the pen. So what I'll be doing is I'll be following a few riders as we go throughout. So hopefully I've got the ability here to flick between a few riders, and what we do is we get their view of the race. We've got 4 categories of riders taking place. That's A, B, C and D. And you'll be able to see that. I'll point that out when we start the race. At the moment I'm in the B pen here. We can see that from the little B in the top right hand corner. And then from the looks of that, we've got about 20 wasps, that's signified by the orange number in the top left, of around about 63 riders in total. So in the B pen we've got about 43 sort of members of Joe Public. But during the race I'll be able to flick between the different categories, A, B, C and D. We should be able to follow that. And in the background here I'm also following it on Zwift Power. So Zwift Power is the tool that's used, the third-party tool that's used for the official sort of results analysis. But one of the good things it does as well is it also provides a live data feed of the racing to see the gaps that are emerging between the various riders, and to see who's around them also with rider stats. And that can be quite useful to know if you're in a break with 2 or 3 riders, what are the power readings, what's the history of that rider around you? Are they a good sprinter, climber, what's their weight? So you'll see DSs in some of the Premier races, or some of the more capable riders at multitasking, trying to look that up as they go. But I'll certainly have the privilege of that today and try and use that in the background. So we've got about 30 seconds to go. If anybody's ever done a Zwift race, what you'll start to see is an absolute full throttle out of the pen. So expect people to start ramping up and start hitting big watts straight from the get-go. And that's really important, because what they all want to do is try and get into that break right from the go, because it's a very sticky draft. And if they don't get that break right at the beginning, it's very hard to bridge those gaps. So the first few minutes are absolute mayhem, and then it falls into some sort of sensibility and recovery. So 1 second to go. And we are off. Excellent. Now I will change my view, and right now I'm following Steve Brown. So I'm following Steve Brown in the Bs, and what you'll start to see is the other riders just coming in from the other pens alongside, and we've now got a full field. So on the right hand side here you can see the riders around Steve. It's pretty chaotic at the moment, and you can see the categories that they're in signified by the little coloured dots there. The A is in red, B in green, C in blue, and D in yellow. So as the race starts to settle down, we'll start to see who's competing around here. And what the Ds and Cs will be starting to do now is, if they can latch on to a B wheel or an A wheel here from the start to get into their draft, and really push themselves out here, they might be able to separate themselves from their other natural competitors in their category. Of course, the risk of doing that is that they blow up absolutely and drop off the back, and the competitors gradually catch up and have their energy reserves to keep on going. So we're following Steve at the moment. So he's in 64th position, a healthy 64th as a B. There's about 240 odd racers overall within this overall race. We'll see if we can flick over to somebody who's at the right at the front in a second. Let's see who else we've got as a view. So we're following Steve at the moment. So he's in 64th position. Multitasking here. There's about 240 odd racers overall within this overall race. So we'll flick over to Ali Penfold. How's he doing? He's in race category C there. He's down in 93rd. Just trying to hold on to that wheel. It's a very sticky draft, and you get a few meters grace. But if you lose that, it's very, very hard to catch on. So really important to hold those gaps right from the start. Okay. Race category C there, he's down in 93rd, just trying to hold on to that wheel. It's a very sticky draft, and you get a few meters grace. Okay, so we're flicking through a few different rider views. Here's someone dropping off the back of the main pack here. I'm just going to scroll up until we get up to the top here. Here we go, who have we got here? We've got Sean Fishpool here in the Bs, well and truly in the pack there, so that's going to be a very sticky draft there at the moment. He's got a few wheelers around him, a lot of wheelers around him there. You can see in the chevrons, that's about 53rd. Keith Henderson in that group as well. So this really is the front group at the moment that's broken away, and it'll settle down shortly. But right at the moment we've got a good grouping, a number of Bs and A wasps in that as well. So I think the Bs will be trying to hold on to those A wheels as long as they can. Rob Burden here, looking good in the Bs. Rob's got a strong, powerful Zwift power profile. It'll be interesting today to see whether he stays with the A's, which he used to race with, or whether he holds back a little bit and saves that energy for the Bs and the leg snapper climb that comes ahead. And he tipped me off earlier this morning that might well be his strategy. We've got a relatively flat course here in Innsbruck, about 8 kilometers per lap. We're going to be doing 5 laps of it, but it's made or broken by the leg snapper climb, so a short, sharp climb that they'll be doing 5 times. And I think how riders approach that may make or break this race. So we're at the pointy end of the field now. You can see quite a few wasps out there at the front. We've got Julian Fussell here. Julian in great form at the moment, knocking on A form. I think he's just about held back and managed to keep himself in Bs for the club champs, but there could be some stewards' inquiries soon taking him up to A. So he's out there at the front, being careful not to take the absolute front wheel, obviously, at the moment. It does work like in real life in terms of conserving energy. There can be a big difference between the front of that group and the back, maybe 100, 150 watts at some points. So you want to be at the pointy end in terms of any brakes getting away, but you certainly don't want to be fully having your face into the wind. And one of the dynamics on this with Zwift is you can start to see whether somebody is actually properly in the draft or not of the rider behind them. If they're fully in the draft, later on you'll start to see their avatar sits up a little bit, sits up on the bars. And that means they're fully catching the draft and being as energy efficient as they can. If they're down in the drops, they're either chasing hard, as signified by their wattage, and that will be the case at the moment, or they're in the wind themselves, out in the front and it being exposed. So there's a bit of an art, a bit of a gamecraft to just conserve that energy as long as you can. So let's have a look a little bit further down the field, see who else we've got. And that'll be the case at the moment, or they're in the wind themselves out the front and it being exposed. So there's a bit of let's flick over to Warren Gardner. So Warren's in the Bs. Warren's been an absolute stalwart of the Zwifting. He's been conducting a number of group rides for us. He's been competing in race leagues over the last few months, doing really strongly. Looks like he's in a second grouping there that hasn't quite held on to the first. So already those splits starting to emerge within the pack there. But he's got himself nicely nestled in there. Might be another couple of wasps around him as well. Kieran Fitzpatrick, you can see, within that group as well. And just looking down the list here as well, I think holding on to that group in a fantastic performance is Ollie Fussell here. So this is our youth rider. I think Ollie's, is he 10 years old now? I should have done my research beforehand, but he's certainly around that age group. As a result, extremely light as well. You know, so he's pushing out very low weight, which on his watts per kilo there, which is what Zwift is all about, he can sort of compete with the adults very strongly, particularly when it comes obviously to the climbs. So, and look out for Ollie making a good impression. Elsewhere in the field we've got Lucas Burden as another youth rider. Hopefully we'll pick him up during this as well. And I think a late entry as well, we've got Felix Ledger as well, and Felix a very strong rider, strong cyclocross rider as well, and no doubt he'll be mixing it up there at the end of the field. But great effort there from Ollie right now to be holding that group already alongside Kieran Fitzpatrick. And that's what's great about this platform, right? You know, it's a real leveler across genders, abilities, and clearly here, as you can see, across age groups as well. So let's pop back up to the through the field here a little bit. Let's see what's going on. So we've got this little group that's now falling about 27 seconds behind. We can see the time gaps here on the right hand side behind the group in front. Now the group in front are starting to come up to the leg snapper. Here we are on this first climb. Really, the splits are breaking out already. Sean there, he's just getting dropped from the front group as we shuffle up through that group. Anthony Goebel here, we're on behind Steve Brown, behind Tom Moss, and you can see they're just hanging off the back of that front group, which is already starting to split. Al Fraser there doing well. Not the lightest of riders, so holding on to that group on that split's done really well. Phil Riley, who's in great form. Phil, we'll know from the club, goes way back in our racing pedigree, and now based in France. Another great aspect of the platform, you can log in from anywhere in the world. So we've got a couple of Belgian and French ex-club members that take part in this as well, which is great to see. Steve hanging on there well in that front group. Chris Proctor just in front, another very, very strong rider, been putting in some good results recently. And then just in front here as we get to the pointy end. So we're about 45th down the field now. A couple of splits opening up after that break. But here we go, as we go up to the front here. This is really the front group now. We've got Craig Kingham here as well. Craig's racing, and I think joined by, we've got one of his South African race mates joining in from South Africa today as well. Darren, we'll get onto him shortly. Tight little pack there towards the front. But already they've dropped off 10 seconds at the very, very front of the group here. So just flicking through here, here we are. And there's the second grouping there, and you can just see the first group up the road, another 7 seconds, and we'll get right up to the top of the field here. And here we go. Let's pick up on one of our wheelers here. But already they've dropped off 10 seconds. Let's see. At the very, very front of the group here. Here we go. Here we are with Keith right at the front of the field, 5th place. Obviously one of the favourites for today, alongside Neil Harris, Rory. We've got Keith Brown racing as well. Keith, perhaps one of the most experienced wheelers on Zwift. He's been taking part long before we all sort of converged here over the last couple of years. He's been competing at a very high level in team time trials and events. So he'll be one to look out for. Lots of racecraft there from Keith Brown as well. Neil Harris in the group. Neil recently competed at the British Time Trial Champs, I believe, as well. So one of our elite racers. And here we go. We can see this group now. What would we say? Probably about 10-15 riders in that front group. And that is looking ominous at this stage. Although it's got my name popping up there, I can assure you I'm not in that. I am still in the pen. So what I have to do is I have to set myself up as a rider here within the race to be able to view other people. So that's what that's all about. So just dropping back down the field at the moment. Let's see how Ollie's doing. There we go. He's come through that leg snapper there, and that's hurt the back of the group a little bit there. But he's holding on. As long as he's got some riders around him, you don't want to be in no man's land with that sticky draft. So it's great to see Ollie picking up some wheels there, and that'll carry him through for the next lap at least. Going back through, Warren's in a good group there as well. So Warren, let's see where the placings are. But he's holding on. As long as he's got some riders around him, you don't want to be in no man's land with that sticky draft. So it's great to see Ollie picking up some wheels there, and that'll carry him through for the next lap at least. Going back through, Warren's in a good group there as well. So Warren, let's see where the placings are. Okay, so we're tracking around about 95th. So I'm just looking at Zwift Power at the same time here. So Warren's in a group that at the moment is about 1 minute 30 down on the front leaders. And the group that he's in at the moment here has got about 15 seconds to the group in front. You can just sort of see them up the road. So if they work together well as that group over the flats before the next leg snapper, they should be able to hopefully pull them in. So about 1 minute 14. Let's just have a little look further down the order, just see what's going on here. Felix Ledger is in this group as well. Jeremy Page has just joined our activities recently. Very strong rower. Doesn't often get an opportunity due to his rowing commitments to take part in some of the club rides, but Zwift's affording him that ability to join us online, which is great to see. Kieran Fitzpatrick also in this group as well. A little bit further down the field, about 20 seconds back, we've got Sam Gibbs. Sam was a key part of our race team earlier on in the year, and helped win us the BC British Cycling South East title. So good to have Sam racing today, as well as Steve Dennis, who's alongside him as well. Felix Ledger here, our youth rider, racing the Bees, just hanging on to this group. Key part of our race team earlier on in the year. We've got Felix at about 97th place there. So as I say, they're about 1 minute 30 down on the lead at the moment. We'll come back to the front of the field in a second. Here's Steve Dennis, Sam Gibbs, that group. That's just behind Felix's group, so about 20 seconds back. Come further down the field. A few gaps really starting to break up now, and as I said, really important that you don't end up in this sort of no man's land. We'll flip back up to the front in a second. Bear with me. Let's just get a view of how our juniors, our youth riders are doing as we come back through the field. John Brennan, friend of Southborough District Wheelers, I believe he might be based overseas as well. So good to have him on board today as well. He's around about 169th there. Doesn't often race, well, hasn't raced with us before. So great to have him on board as well. We'll head just back down the field slightly. Let's see if we can pick up any other wheelers here before we head up back to the front. No, we're all looking good there. So we're going to head on back up to the front. Give me 1 second as I aim to do that quickly. Let's see if we can jump straight onto Keith's wheel. And here we go. We're straight back up to the front with Keith Henderson. So he's in about 5th place at the moment. That group will probably hold itself for some time now, although they're going to be coming up to the snapper again at the moment. Looking across that group, the data I've got in front of me, we've got some strong riders. We've got about, let's see at the moment, we've got about, how many? 7 riders in that group. It's quite small at this first stage. I'd say maybe it looks a little bit more on the screen here from what the data's telling me. But you can see they're pulling some strong watts already. So Keith here we can see his watts in the top left-hand corner. That's hiding obviously within the group there, conserving energy. So around the front of that group they'll probably be pulling around about 350. You can see on the right-hand side there, you can see those people taking those wheels on the front are flicking up to about 4.2 watts per kilo as they put their noses into the wind there. Keith seems to be the only wheeler at the moment that has made that group, I believe. Rory here has dropped back to about 15 seconds behind, so we've got a real battle on to see if if Rory can make that group back across. I think we might have Michael Amos in that group. Michael's recently joined us. I think he's joined us possibly from Clapham Chasers, a competitor club, obviously lured over by our activity. I think it was Clapham, I might be wrong there. But he's literally joined the Wheelers this week as a full member, and that's great to see off the back of the Zwift activity, and obviously competing at the pointy end of the field here as well. I think Neil Harris might be in that group as well, so I think that gap has closed back a little bit, so that we've now got Neil, we've got Keith, we've got Michael, and I believe Rory may be in that as well. We'll just check that, and Rob Burden actually as well. So that's a strong showing. In actual fact, Rory isn't in that at the moment. David Bagg, James Curry, Rory Barrett and Craig King have just dropped back into the second group, which is about 15 seconds behind from my showing. So that's really interesting. So we've got a little break already. So it'll be interesting to see if that second group can work together, whether Dave Bagg can time trial them back up into this front group. But they're back up onto the leg snapper now. Be interesting to see what sort of watts that they start putting out as they start coming through this. I think they're on that now. So that's really interesting. So let's have a look. Break already. So it'll be interesting to see if that second group can work together with they're working at a sensible pace. Nobody's trying to split it at the moment. But they're back up onto the leg snapper now. Be interesting to see what sort of watts that they start putting out as they start coming through this. I think they're on that now. So that's really interesting to see. Okay, let's see if that gap's starting to close or open between the next group. Looking at the data I've got in front of me, it looks as though it's starting to close, down from about 15 seconds down to 10. Now that could just be because of the gradients between the respective groups where they're at on the course. But that's encouraging. It'll be really good to see if that second group can bridge that gap, get back over. But if they're going to do it, they're probably going to need to do it before they come up to the lake stand. But they haven't actually reached that for a second time yet. So interesting to see how that goes. We'll stay with this group throughout that and see that see what type of wattage they're putting out over that. See if anybody tries to make an early break. Probably not in their interest now on the second lap for anybody to try and break away from that front group. So just looking who else is in that group. Where have we got people from? We've got somebody from Sweden in that group, somebody from France, a couple of French riders, South African rider, Brazilian rider. So a truly multinational front group there. Belgians as well, and some people with some big numbers, looking at some of the data that I've got access to here on the Zwift Power screen. Some of those are A+ riders. That's are very, very elite riders. So here we go. We're starting to come onto the hill now. You're seeing some big watts being put out now. Front of the group putting out 8 to 9 watts per kilo. Here's Keith on 623 watts, and that's a decent climb. You know, that's a full minute and a half effort, and a bit more for riders like me. But look at that. There we go. We've got Michael Amos at the front. Keith, will this split up this group? Look, it's getting stretched out already. What they've got to do is, as they come over the top, they've got to keep spinning, keep that cadence up as they come over the crest. So under a minute climb, but big watts, 600 watts throughout that climb. And here we go. As you see, if they keep their cadence spinning and over the crest, they can form a little group. And anybody who hasn't managed to do that, anybody who comes up for a breather on the top and doesn't latch onto that group is in real trouble now. But it looks like they're all in good form. Now what you can start to see some of them doing there is the super tuck position. So getting down on the top bar. And that takes place if you're over 55 kilometers per hour on the platform, and if you stop pedaling, the system will take you into a super tuck, which is more aero and enables you to get a breather. But there is an art to that. You need to go into it at the right time and come out of it at the right time. Obviously, if you come out of it without the legs spinning and ready, you can easily be dropped from the group. So great tool, but dangerous if you use it in the wrong place at the wrong time. There you go. There's a great image of that being put into place. You'll notice a lot of these riders at the front end are on different bikes. The bikes have different weights, different aero performance. You can select those from your virtual garage beforehand, your wheel and bike combination. And a course like this is an interesting one. There's not really enough climbing there to warrant you going for the lightest setup. So I imagine everybody's looking at an aero setup today. You've got some of your deep section Zip 808 wheels on there. We saw a rider there with a full disc wheel beforehand. That's hard to get. You have to earn that through your levels and your credits within the game, so that's why not everybody's on that. Equally, the Tron bikes, the ones with the neon wheels there. You have to have done 50,000 meters worth of climbing within the Zwift game to have earned that, and that takes some going. But once you get that, that's one of the better all-rounder bikes. Now the bikes don't make a massive difference. We're talking about 5 to 10 seconds over the course of a sort of 20 to 30 kilometer time trial. So it's not an absolute game changer. So it doesn't create a huge disadvantage, but it obviously every second counts. So people will take advantage of that if they can. So let's have a little look at the time gaps here. We'll leave this group in a second. They've come through the climbs there now as they're coming back along the Innsbruck Valley there. We're talking about a 17-second time gap now. So let's jump back to that next group. Actually, it's jumped out to about 30 seconds now. So here we are. We're in the second chasing group now. We've got about 30 seconds behind the front group, down to the sort of 19th through to 30th places. We've got some wasps amidst that. If they work well, they may be able to close it, but that's not looking too great at the moment. They might be fighting for the lower places. So well done to Keith and the lads getting away in that front group. Let's see if we can pick up on any wheelers within this group. Let's have a look down here. Here we go. So we're on Dave Bagg now in this second group. Rory Barrett's there, Rob Burden, Craig Kingham. So some decent quality from the wheelers there. But as I say, at the moment, you can see at the top there, they're about 27 seconds down on the group in front, and they'll be kicking themselves to let that split go. But if they work together well and conserve well, that might be something that they can bring back in. So let's look a little bit back further down the field now. On the group in front. Let's jump back. We've got a group just behind these guys actually. So let's have a look here. Here we go, Julian Fussel's group. Not far behind that front group, that second group at all. So they're showing to me about another sort of 12 seconds down from the group that we were just in. So we've got a front group with Keith Henderson in, and about 5 other riders. Neil Harris within that as well, Michael Amos within it. We've got the second group about 30 seconds back with Rob Burden in, Rory Barrett, Dave Bagg, Craig Kingham, and then well, look at this. This is really close now. About another 13 seconds back, we've got this very small little elite group here, and we've got 3 wheelers in that. We've got Ed Bowyer, a youth rider. Great to see him as far up as this, holding those wheels. This is our battle for our Bs, ladies and gents. We've got Pete Collier in here, very strong rider. Julian Fussell. And they're working really hard now, but it's a small group. They'll do well to keep away the riders behind them that are about another 15 seconds behind. That includes Darren Constantinou, a South African honorary wheeler for the day, race mate of Craig Kingham's. Great to have him joining in from over in South Africa. Not sure quite what time it might be there. It might be, what are they, a few hours ahead, so in the evening there joining us. But listen, look, this is a fantastic group, and Ed now firmly within that, which is brilliant. Ed's a light rider as a youth rider, so if he can stick within that and if they can stay away, then that could come really interesting on the last laps through that leg snapper. But Julian's got a lot of experience on this platform. He's in great form at the moment. He'll know exactly what he's doing there and what he needs to do to stay in a good position for the end of the race. Pete also in absolute great form. He's been carrying the weight on our B Group time trial series recently, doing lots of turns on the front and really pushing himself towards the A category positions as well. So look, that's our third group on the road. Let's jump back to the group just behind them, about 20 seconds behind now. Here we are with Darren adopting the Zwift kit. In actual fact, Darren's out on his own at the moment. He's in a gap. So it'll be interesting whether he can bridge back across or whether it makes sense for him at the moment to drop back and just form a little group with the riders behind them and work together. Just behind him here is Steve Cowsell. So we've got a couple of wasps in no man's land, and that's not great. As I said, it's a very sticky draft on the Zwift platform. And you really can burn a lot of energy in the middle by yourself there. So it can really pay dividends sometimes to just drop back, pick up a group behind you, work together, and then save that energy for you making maybe a break yourself towards the end, or certainly being well placed for the sprint. So Steve, here we go, just coming up to Darren. So at least the two of them will get some error relief. Let's just watch Steve as he does that, and you'll hopefully see on the screen the dynamics. So Steve's pushing out about 200 to 230 watts at the moment. As he pulls up here, he's picking up the draft now. Let's see whether he goes straight through. He's chosen to go straight through rather than just pick up that wheel for a bit of relief. So if Darren picks that up now, here we go with Darren. If he picks that up now, he'll get a little bit of energy reserves from that. Needs to be a little bit closer than that. Need to be within 2 to 3 meters, and then you pick up that draft, and that makes all the difference. So, a few further riders out behind them though. This is a group that's about 7 seconds behind Steve and Darren. So, given the number of riders within this and the number of wasps within that, I think they'll close down pretty quickly. So perhaps that's what Darren and Steve are waiting for now. So this is about, as I say, the fourth or fifth group on the road. This is really the chasing B group behind Julian and co. But there's a decent size of them, so they might close that group down to Julian pretty quickly. Here we go now. They're closing down on Steve, about 5 seconds in front. We've got Patrick Barham within that group. Tom Moss. Tom's one to watch out for, extremely strong sprint. We've got Shemek on there as well, one of our very well-known riders from the club. Chris Proctor in there as well. Chris extremely strong, especially with the sprints as well, so he'll be biding his time there. He'll know exactly what he's doing. maybe hanging out the back of that pack there for a bit of energy reserve, letting it all come together. So as they come together with Steve and Darren there, they've probably got about 35 seconds. You can just see Darren and Steve in front to Julian's group, which is really the front of the bees. So it'll be interesting to keep a tab on that. Al Fraser within that group as well. Steve Brown's just a little bit further back. They're a further group back, Steve, another 20 seconds back. And Phil Riley within that. Phil must be having a bad legs day because he's part of that as an A. Usually expect to see him further up to the front, but he's been putting out some huge efforts in the A group team time trials lately. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the juice has just gone from the legs a little bit. So there we go. That gives us a bit of a feeling for the bees. Let's just go a little bit further back down the field, and then we'll jump back up the front and see what's happening there with Keith and Co. We've got Sean here, Sean Fishpool, one of our very strong cyclocross riders here. Here he is with Carlos. So Carlos here is probably one of the front C riders, along with Tim Bottoms, who's made the break in front of him. Tim, here we go, 20 seconds ahead of Carlos. He's got a little group of about sort of 5 riders, along with Kester Dobson as well. So great little effort there from Tim to be able to take that wheel. And I think that makes him about our leading C group rider at the moment, C Cat rider. So if he can keep ahead of Carlos, he'll be doing well. Carlos has been very much at the pointy end of the C's throughout the season, bagging some big points in our team time trials and the British Cycling South East Series. Here he is, though, in a very small group. He's with Sean, who's a B rider, so he might be wanting Sean to do a little bit of the work on the front there, which is Sean is more than capable of. As we know, he's been doing a lot of off-road riding, cyclocross riding as well, where he's a very strong racer in the Vet 40s. And the power output and the duration of these races, sort of 50 minutes, 55 minutes at sort of 185 beats per minute, there really is no let-up within this. It's very similar to sort of cyclocross, so great training for that, and hopefully it suits Sean well here. So there we go. So we've got the C's starting to come through there, the stronger frontier end of the C's. Let's skip back down the field a little bit here and pick up some other wheelers. Let's follow. I think we've got a group here with a few wheelers in here. Here's Warren within this. I think Warren's son watching today, Marius, I think it is. So shout out to him. A few family members and friends and family watching today. Here we've got Al Penfold within the group just behind Warren as well. And Mark Weaver as well. Great to have Mark on board. Mark and Henry joining the club recently, getting active in the off-road. No doubt we'll see Henry on this platform soon as well. But Mark getting involved. Hasn't been racing long with us, but doing really well there in the C's. Really respectable position there. Let's see if we can pick up on a few of our youth riders. So we had this group earlier on with Kieran and Ollie at the time as well. Looks like Felix, our youth rider, has held on to Kieran. So that puts Felix probably at the front of our youth riders within the field. We're not racing a separate youth category today per se. We'll obviously recognise the efforts. We'll probably have a dedicated youth champs in due course, but it's great that the youth riders can race and compete alongside the adults here. And as you can see from Felix, other than Ed Bowyer, who's way up the front, Felix, I think, that would put him second, within the youth behind Ed at the moment, and holding on to Kieran's wheel, who we all know is a very, very strong rider and a time trial rider here. He'll be putting out some strong watts here, 250. And listen, they've got to carry that for a long way yet, those watts. So let's, we're about 20 kilometres in already, so we're into about halfway through the race. We'll drop back a little bit just to see where our younger riders are doing. Here we go, we've got Ollie Fussell here in the D's. We'll see if we can pick up Lucas to give him some rating. Here we go, Ollie's in a good group there. He can hold on to those wheels within that draft. He'll do well, conserve his energy. And see, there we go, you can see he's just freewheeling a little bit there. His wattage just dropping down to around 60-70 watts. But obviously that watts is divided by a very low weight, which therefore gives him, as you can see on the right-hand side here, where his name is highlighted, 2.2 watts per kilo. So it's sort of 80 watts. You can do the math yourselves there and work out he's at a very low weight there, under sort of 35 kilos. So a real leveller there, but Ollie, if he can hold on to that group, he'll be doing well. Let's just see where His fellow under 12 youth competitor is Lucas within the in the field. I'll see if I can pick him up. So Ollie's in 97th. I think he's dropped back a little bit now. 123rd. Let's see. Let's just see where. So he is ahead of Lucas at the moment. So my data here is showing Lucas is a few minutes back. So Ollie's well positioned for that. We'll just see if we can pick up Lucas within the field, see how he's getting on. Let's have a look here. So he is ahead of Lucas down the field here. We're about 140th, 150th now, at about 250 riders. Very sort of strung out. You see very small groups and alliances sort of working together now. We've got John Brennan there, one of our C's, as I say, taking part. Let's see. Let's give Lucas a little bit of airtime if we can find him. Very sort of strung out. You see very small groups and alliances sort of working together now. Okay, I can't pick up on Lucas at the moment, but great to have him on board. He hasn't been doing a huge amount of riding, so brave of him to take part today. Great to have you with us, Lucas, and excellent effort there. In a very competitive field on a tough course. This is 40 kilometres, right? That's 40 kilometres for these guys at really all they've got. That's a very constant effort. So here we are at the back up at the front of the field. So let's see if I can get a grasp of to how that's shaping up now. It looks like a bigger group from what I can see. So looks like we might have had that group bridged across from that second group that we saw previously. And perhaps we've got Craig, Darren and co back in there. I'm just going to check my data off to the left and see if that is the case. You might work it out on the screen, but let's have a look here. We've got certainly got Keith within the mix. I'll leave you on Keith's view for it. We've got Michael Amos obviously still within there as well. No, there we go. They've still got that group. It's out at about 30 seconds. I can see Rory Barrett just behind. So it's still that small group, 30 seconds, holding tough. And they will have gone through, I believe now, the leg snapper for the third time. So this could be your finishing sprint group. We'll see what happens on the last climb. Neil Harris in there as well. So we've got Neil, Keith fighting for the championship here with Michael Amos at the front here. The club champion could be decided from one of those three. So this could be your finishing sprint group. We'll see what happens on the last time. Neil Harris in there as well. So a little bit of support here from Lewis Nelson. Thanks, Lewis, for Neil. Just catching up with the chat here. James Darragh, one of our regular riders, not able to be with us today. Hope your daughter's doing okay. I think she was in hospital, James, so wishes to her. But great to see that you're prioritising and logging in there from the hospital ward, if that is the case. Good to see you, James, and shame you can't be with us today. Steve Dennis, he's typing and messaging while he's out there. He says no legs. Steve, get off the chat, get back on there, mate. Give it all. You shouldn't be having time for this. So a little bit of support there coming through on the chat. You can take part in the chat if you're watching it in YouTube. There should be a chat window to the bottom. If you're casting it to a larger screen, you might not be seeing that, or if you're on the full screen view within your laptop, you might not be seeing the chat. But click back into the YouTube environment and hopefully you can see that there and participate in the chat. So let's return to seeing what's happening on screen here. Here we go. We're coming back into the built-up area of Innsbruck. Obviously, Innsbruck was the home to the UCI Worlds in 2018. Hence why this course is on here, where Valverde did his magic. I think that was in a final sprint, a smallish group. So be interesting to see who can replicate that. Yeah, great. A lot of detail within the course. UCI Worlds in 2018, hence why this course is on here, where Valverde did his magic. I think that was in a. Let's see what's going on in the groups behind we're looking at. I'm interested in the front of the B groups as well. I'm loath to slip away from this front group too early before it potentially sort of breaks up again. But in the background here, I'll have a look at some of the data, see what's going on behind. interested in the front of the B groups as well. I'm loath to slip away from this front group too early before it potentially sort of breaks up again. But in the background here, I'll have a look at some of the data, see what's going on behind. Okay, it looks behind, and this might be my oversight, that actually the front of our Bs now is Rob Burden and James Curry. So they seem to have broken away. They're kind of stuck between this group actually, and we might just go back there and have a look at this, because this is shaping up interestingly. So that's our front group, folks. Let me just drop back. Let's see what we've got going on here. Here we go, we're dropping back. We've got somebody in no man's land in the middle. I don't think that's accurate. That might be somebody lapped there. Here we go. So we're dropping back here to the second group behind. And now that's got Rory Barrett within it, but it's got David Bagg in it, but I think it has also got Rob Burden in it. And Rob Burden is one of our B-cap riders. So they've managed to get away, both James Curry and Rob Burden in that group, with Dave Bagg, with Rory, who we all know is an incredibly strong wheel on this. Rory is slightly disadvantaged on the Zwift platform. Zwift does look at the CDA, that's the aerodynamics of you, based on your height and your weight. And that will put a drag coefficient on a rider, a tall rider like Rory, and will give Keith and some of the smaller riders a slight advantage. You would argue, Keith would argue, that's no different to in real life dynamics as well. But it does seem to play out a little bit on the Zwift platform here. I'm doing you a favour there, Rory. Or it might just be that he's having a bad legs day. But when I say bad legs, his bad legs would be my incredibly good legs here. He's up in that second group. They're not that far behind the front group now, in actual fact. They're working hard to try and close that down. I think that's looking like that's only about 11-second group now. So if they can do that, if they can bridge that back in, that really will be quite an achievement. And they can maybe take a little bit of a group breather on the group in front. On the top right hand side, you can see a little map there. The blue arrow is the group I am following here, with Rory in it, and you can see there the group in front. You've got an interloper in the middle. I think that's a lapped rider. Ignore that, but you can see the orange group in front is that A group with Keith in it. So this is really interesting. I'm going to stick with this for a little while here. Let's see if we can pick up Rob specifically. Within that, here we go. As I say, about 14 seconds. You've got a rider just slightly off the front there as they're coming into the built-up area. One of the Swedish riders from the SC team, and they've got about 11-second gap. They've done really well working together, and it doesn't look necessarily like the Wasps have been on the front of that, which is encouraging. Meaning, they are conserving. They're letting some of the other riders do the work there to bridge that gap back over. Here they are coming back up into the built-up area. It won't be long before they attack that climb, and it'll be interesting just to see whether that through that they manage to latch on, put a huge effort in up that climb, and maybe try and latch onto one of those wheels on the descent and recover and bring those two groups together. You can see they're putting in a big effort. They are trying to do that now. A couple of riders dropping off the back already. Rob's on 250, 260 watts at the back here, suggesting the front of this group is pushing out certainly 300. Here we go, Rob's putting in a little bit of an effort now. Some kicks here. So this group is working hard to close that gap into the front group with Keith and co. I think this will be the is this the penultimate time up? We're 30 kilometers in, so I think this might be the third time up the leg snapper. So a couple more to go. Working hard to close that gap into the front group with Keith and co. Beg your pardon, the fourth time up. So I think actually, yes, the fourth time up. So if they can regroup now before the final approach to the leg snapper, then this is going to be a really interesting race. That gap closing down to 9 seconds now. I appreciate we've got lots of other Wasps taking part, but this is really quite a key development here. So I'm going to stick with this front groups for the time being. I'll try and keep an eye on what's going on in the B, C's and D's on my data screen in the background. update you if I can. But these guys putting in a big effort here. They're about to come across the river. After they come across the river, they'll do a left and right, and that's where the snap comes. And will be interesting to see the wattage that's put out there. Let's just flick on to James Curry, one of our very strong riders. James is one of our heavier riders in this group. I hope he won't mind me saying. Does incredibly well with the sprints, but this will stretch him on this climb here. Be interesting to see whether he can hold on to that. But it wouldn't be necessarily in this group's interest to start dropping some of the stronger riders here. Here we go. So we're starting to take this climb here. 8%, not a huge. It would kick up, I think, to about 10, 12, maybe a little bit more as we get further up that. But they're putting out some decent wattages. So James Curry, 500 watts he's carrying through this climb. And you can just see on the map in the top right-hand corner some people splintering off the group in front and them starting to close that gap now. The top group has just crested and gone around the corner. You can see the red dots there. This group pushing hard, picking up some extra wheels, and the bigger that group gets over the descent there, the faster they'll be as a sticky group, and maybe be able to start closing that front group up as they come down the valley. Good to see all the Wasps are holding on there, it looks like. They haven't dropped anybody. James putting out 5.3 watts per kilo. Here we go. They've crested around as a group. They hold on together. That's good. They've got the descent now. Rory in there as well, as of course. So we're about, there's a few riders dropping off the front group in the front there. They've struggled. So these guys will pick these up. It's very hard when you come through with a sticky draft here, if you are a rider that's dropped off, to pick this group coming up here. So this chap in the grey here will desperately want to join onto this group. But the speed these guys will be carrying through, he'll be blown out the back very quickly. He's already suffering, and now he'll have to put a sort of micro sprint in to try and stay with them. And you can see he's dropped off the back already despite his best efforts. Another little ramp here, up to about 5-6%. Round the corner, and then they'll start grouping up again to come down the other side of the valley and on the flat. So huge effort from this group. Let's just flick back up to the front here. The time's a little bit distorted. There's 7 seconds, so we've got about 7 seconds here to the front group that Keith is in. Let's have a look at that group there. Here we go. So still a decent number of riders within that, despite shedding a few over the climbs there. This is where I believe this is where the sprint finish, sorry, no, it's an intermediate sprint. It's not the sprint finish yet, that we'll come on to later on in the race. So listen, we're at about 33 kilometres in now. We're coming into the final lap. It'll be interesting to see what people start doing here. I'm going to stick with the front here because this is what's going to decide our club championships, and this will be over before you know it. And then if I can quickly flick back through the field as the other groups come through, I will do. Here we go. Keith, steady 4.3 watts per kilo. I say steady, I'd love to be pulling those types of watts. He's in the middle of the pack there, around 250, around 260 watts, 167 beats per minute at the moment. So he's putting out a decent effort. Very used to this, Keith, very used. He knows what to do. Here we go. Keith, steady 4.3 watts per kilo. I say steady, I'd love to be pulling those types of watts. He's in the middle of a little bit, a few people just dropping out the back there. Michael now dropping out the back there. He struggled on those last couple of climbs, so he's dropped off the front group there, Michael Amos, and now there's about a 15-second gap, I think it's showing us, and probably 30, yes, about a 15-second gap brewing up. So those gradients, those hills, they just distorted the time difference slightly as they went through those. So this group, our Wasps, still together within that. Looks like they might pick up Michael, who's dropped off the front, Michael Amos. But with only a lap to go, they may struggle to bring back that front group. However, for Rob and Co, they're Bs, and they'll be interested not necessarily in winning the whole race or the overall champs. What they do want to do is preserve winning the Bs. So they're in a good position there. They'll probably leave it, James and Rob will probably leave it up to the likes of Rory and Dave Bagg, the other A's, to do the work to bridge the gap. If they can hold on to them and go with them, great, and get into contention for the overall race. But those two will be conscious that they're fighting against each other for the Cat B title there as well. So Rory's still within that group. Looks like it's about 13 to 15 seconds, 13 seconds there to that front group. So there's Michael in a little bit of no man's land. Looks like he's been dropped from that front group. You can just see behind him the main group picking him back up. Let's flick back over to Keith's group right at the front here. So Michael's dropped out of that, so that's Neil Harris now and Keith are the two Wasps left within that front group, and therefore it looks like the club champs could be decided by those two, and what two worthy winners or contenders they are for that, given their form this season so far. So we've only got about 4 kilometres to go, not long now at all. I think they might have actually come through the Lake Snapper for the last time now. Apologies me keeping track with this as we flick through all the various competitors in the field. A bit hard to do, but I think it'd be worth staying with this now. We'll see who the title's decided by. Neil in a very strong position in there, and Keith, they'll be wanting to conserve here a little bit. They don't want to conserve too much as a group and let that other group sort of come through and catch back up, but I think they're probably fairly safe on that now. That is dropping back 30 to 40 seconds now from what I can see here from the data. So this is our front group. This is where the race will be won, where the club champs will be won, and where the Cat A will be won between Keith and Neil, barring of course any mechanicals, and of course mechanicals do happen on this, just like punches in real life. Wi-Fi dropouts, weak signals, sensor dropouts, that can happen, and often at the worst of times, but I'm sure everybody will have told their kids to keep off the Xboxes today, to go out for a walk and leave the Wi-Fi strong for this race. So here we go. We've got about three kilometres or so to go. Getting a little bit cagey in the front there. We'll stick on Keith's view for now. We've got Neil at the back of that group, just conserving a little bit of energy. So here we go. We've got about three kilometres or so to go. Getting a little bit cagey in the front there. We'll stick on Keith's view for now. Neil at the back of that group, just conserving a little bit of energy. So looking a bit further down the field, just to keep you track of what's going on elsewhere, we've got Michael and Michael Amos now just about to join back up with that group. That second group with Rob Burden, David Bagg, James Curry. They're still together. They're about 30 to 40 seconds back now, with Rory Barrett in that as well. Further back down the field, we've got Craig Kingham, Ed Bowyer still holding on into that group. That's really exciting. I'll try and flick back to that, but that's fantastic for Ed, and contending for a podium position within the B Cat there. So Craig Kingham about 2 minutes behind Keith's group, probably about a minute and a half behind Rory's group. So Craig in a strong A position there. As I say, then back about 2.5 to 3 minutes down, we've got Ed Bowyer's group, but quite a few Wasp Bs within that. Ed, Pete Collier, Julian Fussell, Alistair Fazer, and Chris Proctor. No, sorry, I beg your pardon. Al and Chris are in the group behind. So Julian, Pete, and Ed in a group a little bit further back, 2.5 to 3 minutes back from the leaders, competing for the podium place. Here we go. What have I missed? Not looking at the screen. Keith has made a break for it. He's putting out 9 watts per kilo. He's got some other A riders in front of him, but they're not Wasps. So at the moment, here we go. Keith pulling back into this group. There we go. I beg your pardon, Neil is in that group as well, or are they passing through? Sorry, they're passing through the lapped riders. Keith's made a break for it. He's made an absolute break for it. He's out the front. Got some other A riders in front of him, but they're not Wasps. So it's a bit hard to track with the lapped riders here, but he's got another A on his wheel. He's got a couple of other A's on his wheel. So there we go. Just a little show of what he's got there from Keith. Drop back down to 4.3 now as the groups come together, with including Neil Harris as well. So there we go, just a little tester of who's got what in their legs as they came through. And that's probably because as they were coming through lapped riders, although going at a very different pace, those lapped riders can break the drafts a little bit, and you want to avoid getting split with those. So Keith just putting in some juice to come through on the front of that and ensure he wasn't affected by those lapped riders, by those lapped riders, that would suggest. So there you go, they've grouped back up now. We've only got about 1 kilometre to go within the race. This is starting to get quite interesting now as they come through the town. So there you go, they've grouped back up now. They've only got about a kilometre to go within the race. This is starting to get quite interesting now as they come through the town. In actual fact, my apologies, but it's actually a few kilometres to go yet. I'm doing a Carlton Kirby on you and feeding absolutely rubbish and false information. My apologies for that, but I think they're coming in at 44. I should know that as the event organiser, but struggling to keep a track of all the data at the moment. So yes, sorry, it is coming through closer to 45 kilometres, so they do have another leg snap to go. I was right, they've got one further to go, so that could be the deciding factor as we come through. So my apologies there for misleading you on that one. Keith and Neil still at the front, so in which case has that group behind got a chance of pulling them back in? Let's just have a little look and see how they're settling down. Here we go, here's Rory's group, about sort of 30 seconds behind, so that's going to be a lot of work from there. James still very much within that, James Curry, and I presume Rob Burden as well, so still competing for that B crown within that group, which is a fantastic effort, and Rory within that as well. But let's go back up to that front group as they come through the town here. Let's have a little look. So here we go. Back up with Keith, back up with Neil. Let's pick up on Neil for a second here. This is an epic battle between these two. Let's have a look. We're coming across the river now before we take a left-hand turn. And there we go. One of the riders on the front there just made a couple of them making a break for it now ahead of the leg snap, trying to spin into that, take some power into it. That's really interesting. So obviously Keith and Neil would like to win the overall race, but they're competing against each other for the club champs, so they may or may not be too concerned about that. They're probably just tracking each other at this stage. So here we go, we're into the leg snapper, 8%. They're coming up to some lap riders. That starts to throw a little bit of confusion into things here. But look at Neil, he's putting out 700 watts now, 730. And what's this is huge, he's out of the saddle, 750 watts. 9.5 watts per kilo. I mean, you'd expect that within a sprint. Here we go. Let's see how this all comes back together over the crest, but I'm sure this will have shaken things up hugely. That's a big push for Neil, and that's dropped Keith a couple of seconds behind there. Keith is now a couple of seconds behind Neil. Huge effort with that wattage there. Neil into the super tuck position, taking advantage of some of the lap riders to draft through as well. That's a really clever move coming over the top there. And that may have just split it. We'll have to see whether Keith and Co can pull that back in. Let's just click over to Keith to get his view. Here we go. He's not too far behind, actually. It's quite a few riders within that group. So although he's a couple of seconds behind, he's on wheels, and that's the important thing. So Keith here, making sure back over this crest that he pulls in, but he's got a little bit of work to do to come back up to Neil now. We'll get a better grip of this as they come out onto the flat past all these lap riders, but it's starting to get a bit messy and a bit difficult for us to at least to track, probably for them as well. So Keith coming through, we've got a couple of kilometres to go. Let's see where he is in relation to Neil. There we go, they're back together. So well done, Keith. However, I think they have dropped a few riders from that group. We'll see this sort of play out here on the other side of the river here before they cross the bridge and come into the sprint finish territory. But looks like they are back together. So a little bit of chaos there. Huge wattage from Neil over the crest to try and sort of break that up. They're now conserving back down to a sort of more sensible 250, 280. I say conserving, that's my FTP, but that's then conserving within the pack. But here we go. They'll be thinking about the sprint now. I think they will have accepted that this is going to be a sprint finish. They've got a couple of kilometres to go, and it's all back together. So just looking through the data here within their group, what I can see here is people's 15-second power ratios. So this is their records from Zwift, and I can see there that we've got people putting out around 12, 13 watts per kilo as their record power. Neil's is around about 11 for 15 seconds. Keith is 11.3. So there are some strong sprinters within this. Look out for Martin Boudot, the French rider, with 13.9 watts record wattage in his racing for 15-second power. So that gives you a good feel. So he could be a one to watch out for, Martin Boudot. And he's in a team as well with Geoffrey Milor from France as well. So the two of those might be working together with a little bit of a lead out. We'll see. The other rider we've got in this that I've neglected to speak about, I think he's probably within the second group now, is Keith Brown as well. As I say, one of the more experienced Zwifters from the Wheelers, but I think he's just dropped into the second group. He's not in the same kit, so it's been a bit hard for me to follow him throughout all of this, but I'll see if I can pick him up at all. But here we are, coming into the finish now, not far to go at all. Because of my race view, I'm afraid I haven't got the countdown of the meters that they've got to the finish line, but they will do. They'll know. They'll have a countdown of how far it is to go, and we'll be timing their breaks accordingly. So here they go. We're talking, I would say, around about 500 meters now before the finish line. There we go. Here's Keith just conserving at the back. I'll stay with his view because we should be able to see Neil in front of him from that. This is getting a little bit tense. Keith, he's dropped down. You can see he's dropped down to about 150, 180 watts there, right at the back there. So this is getting, they're toying with each other a bit. Nobody wanting to do the work, but as I say, the draft's really sticky. So if you can do it, and there he goes. There goes Keith. He's starting to ramp it up. 800 watts, 800 watts, and he'll be picking up on Neil. Where's Neil in that melee? Neil closer to the front there, but Keith coming through. Keith coming through really tightly now, but still putting out 850 watts, and you can see him relative to Neil there. He's on the right-hand side. Neil picking up those wheels. There we go. Keith has come through, and he's taken that for the club championships at 850 watts. What a great battle, the two of them to the line. I don't think they quite took the race, but they certainly took the club champs between those two, with Keith being crowned, but really being taken all the way to the line there by Neil. So I believe that was the result. As I say, it's a bit hard to pick up on that. I hope I haven't called that incorrectly. But congratulations to Keith if that is the case. I'll be able to verify that in just a second. So look, let's flick back to the next groups now, because coming across the line now, we should be, if I can reach them properly. It's a bit mixed up with the I'm all over the place now. Let me see. Congratulations to Keith if that is pick this up. Verify that in just a second. So let's flick back to the next groups now, because coming across the line now, we should be. If I can reach them. Okay, here's Rory Barrett coming through. It looks like Rory's come across the line already, so I've missed what's gone on within that second group. Let's see if we can come back to a little bit further down the field. So I can't from the screen confirm at the moment from watching them who's won the B category. They finished quite close behind the A category in the end, following that KG affair, only sort of 12 to 20 seconds on there. So I'm going to try and see if I can pick up our next group of riders. Let's see what we can see here. It's all getting a little bit mixed up with the there we go. Let's come back down. Come back down the list. No, it looks like I've now lost the view to be able to follow through the other riders. I'm not watching on a true broadcast view here, of course. I'm watching basically through a hijacked fan view. That's my rider back in the pen, and I'm just clicking on other riders to watch from there. Here we go. We managed to pick up on Phil Riley at least. So let's see where Phil is within the race and what that's telling us. So I'll have a look down the list here. I was hoping to get back to Ed Bowyer's group. Let's see if I can whistle on up through the standings here and see if I can pick up on them. Here we go. We've got Steve Cowsell in there in a group with Al Fraser. They're around 49th, so that's well placing within the Bs. Let's see if we can pick up. Here we go. Julian Fussell He's out on his own here. Now he'll be coming up to the sprint line very shortly, but he's behind Ed. So Ed's broken free, and Ed is contending here, from my reckoning, for third place in the Bs, which is a huge effort for one of our youth riders. Certainly gets him the highest youth rider finish from today, but by my reckoning, and I could be wrong, there's a lot to track here, but I think he is aiming to come across in third in the Bs. But Julian just behind him. Would Julian hold on to him here? We'll see. Let's just follow Ed through here until the finish line, which is not far away from him at all. That's a fantastic effort. There we go. Ed putting in the sprint, 760 watts, 780. Huge effort after that race, and winning his own little race there within the group at 10.9 watts per kilo. Huge effort, Ed. Well done, mate. So by my reckoning, I think that's taking a podium place, third in the Bs, and certainly our highest youth rider for the day. Pete Collier coming in 14 seconds back on Ed. Let's see what I can pick up now on other riders within the group. So what have we got going on here? Shemek and co in the B riders, B group, with Steve Cowsall, Al Fraser, Tom Moss, Chris Proctor. So by my reckoning, they were down at about 30 seconds down on Ed in the Bs, which just goes to show how good Ed's performance was, the strength here. So that sprint shaping up there now. Looks like Shemek's not going for that sprint, but Tom Moss certainly is. And there you go, Tom taking that sprint within that little group in front of him. So good effort, Tom. Let's see who else we can pick up now. Let's see, what other... Here we go, we've got Patrick Barham in here. We've got Phil Riley, Anthony Goebel. We didn't get a lot of coverage from Anthony. Let's see if we can pick him up here. He's coming across the river. He is in... Let's get a feel for where Anthony is in the field. So from... Tom Moss's group that we were looking at, which is about 4.5 minutes down. We're now looking at Anthony, who is around, here we go, an extra couple of minutes down. So Anthony's around about 56th, here we go, 64th within the race. So he's got his own little race here coming into the finish with these wheels. He's got Phil Riley about a minute in front of him now, and he's got Steve Brown and Tim Bottoms about a minute behind. So he's out on his own in terms of wasps, but no doubt he'll be looking to take this sprint here. So let's watch Anthony come over the line here. Good race experience from Anthony. He's around 220. He'll be a strong sprint finish here, I'm sure. And he's on his Tron bike as well. Shows the experience he's had on the platform, 50,000 metres of climbing. Here he is again there, dropping down 200 odd watts, but no need for Anthony to be doing any more than that at the moment, any further work on that at the moment. There is a rider coming up from behind though, so they don't want to slow up too much, or he could spin on through. Van der Poel style at the Amstel, come on through and go straight past them. Let's see what happens here. They've got another rider just a few seconds in front, 4 seconds. I don't know whether they're closing out. Here we go. Here goes Anthony. Again, 800 watts, 700, dropping back down there, but a peak of 800 watts. That's all he needs to do by the looks of it. He's broken those two for sure and come across to the front within his team's sprint. So good effort. In actual fact, it looks like he's putting in enough to close down that 4-second gap to the rider in front. So great effort from Anthony there. Every place counts. Good effort, Anthony, cruising through there, still at sort of 400 watts, but that's enough. Although that other wheel is just coming up on him if he's not careful there. He needs to be aware of that. Just done enough within that as well. So let's look back down, see if we can pick up anyone else. Here we go, Steve Brown, Tim Bottoms, a further minute down within the Bs. Looks like they've got a good little race. In actual fact, Tim Bottoms is within the Cs. So does that make Tim our highest placed C rider at the moment? Let me just have a look at where he might be relative to Carlos Martinez, the king of the Cs. Yes, El Carlos is back down around 80 seconds. So that puts Tim Bottoms at the front of the Cs, and there he is whacking out 8.1 watts per kilo to come in across within that group. Fantastic, and congratulations, Steve. There it looks, from my data, that you might be the winner of the C Cat on that performance. So that's a fantastic, fantastic effort. Right, let's see who else we can pick up. See if we can pick up some of the D riders coming across. Let's see what have we got going on here. So we're back to the other side of the leg snapper, so that is the tail end. Let's cruise back up through the field. Hopefully we've got a few other riders to pick up on here as we come through the river. Here we go, Felix Ledger in the Bs. He's a few minutes down. Let's say Felix not normally on Zwift, so great to have him here today. Or certainly not on our club racing on Zwift, so great to have him diving in and putting a great performance on a tough course today. Still putting out almost 3 watts per kilo there, one of our junior youth riders. Coming into the home stretch now. Let's see if we can pick up on any other wheelers coming up towards the finish line. We've got Kieran Fitzpatrick here in a nice little group with Sam Gibbs. Sam a C, so mixing it up with a strong B rider in Kieran there. So they've got a nice little group. Coming up a couple of seconds in front of them, Kester Dobson. And about 30 seconds in that, coming up towards the finish line now, is Al Penfold chasing down Bill Thompson. That's a great effort from Bill in the C's. Bill just getting involved with our racing here. And ahead of them is Mark Weaver and Sean Fishbull. So great effort from Mark in the C's, holding on to Sean. Sean might have got a little bit isolated there. Through some of that race, hence dropping back to these groups. But he's there with Carlos as well. Good little wasp group this as they come into the finish line. My money would be on Sean in terms of raw power possibly to take this sprint, but Carlos possibly on experience. But who knows, some dark horses in Mark Weaver, relatively new to this platform. And there we go, we're starting to lift the wattage up now. Let's see, Shutton going for it. Carlos out the front, is that? Oh, that's tight. I think Carlos has just about got it. No, Bill. No, Carlos across the line. Very hard to call these riders and who those are, but everybody putting in a full effort to the end there, which is great to see. Let's see who else we can pick back up. Sorry that I have to keep on doing this. I have to keep on skipping to my rider and then skipping back up through the field. Let's see quickly if we can get back up the field. Let's see how we can pick up on what Ollie's doing. No, not yet. It's great to see. Let's see what we've got here. Kester just coming across the line. Kester Dobson, good effort, Kester. Good to have you here. Felix, who we were tracking before, got himself in a little group for the sprint finish. Let's see if we can see if Felix has got it in the legs to come across and take that sprint. Here we go, they're at 200 watts now as they come up to the finish. Coming across the line. Kester Dobson, good effort, Kester. Good to have you here. Felix got left in those legs. Does he even need to do it? He's picking up the draft nicely here. We start to see that wattage go up in a second. Yeah, no, we're a bit far out yet. We don't want to throw that down too early. He's picking up on a few riders in front of him, so that's always good because you can kind of pick up the draft as you come through on those, the way that it works on Zwift. So if you get your timing right, you can break away from your group and just pick that draft up in front and slip through without those others catching. Although here we go, we've got someone coming through fast behind now, and he's doing exactly what I've just described there, and that may be a hard wheel to catch now for Felix in the group. They've been caught napping slightly there. Although, as I say, you know, maybe their legs are shot. They might not necessarily be competing fully for the minor places now. Well, having said that, here we go. Felix ramping up 280 watts. Here we go, coming into the finish. That chap who's just come through, the black top, has got that, came through fast, but flagging now after that effort, and it put my money on Felix and the crew actually breaking that gap back down here just before the line. Let's see if he can do it. 300 watts. It's been carrying that strong wattage for a little while now. 400 watts. That's a good effort, Felix, as one of our youth riders. 9.3, 10.7 watts per kilo. So that's the kind of wattage our lead sprinters were putting out. Obviously, Felix carrying lighter weight, but watts per kilo wise, that's up there with the best of them, around 10 watts per kilo. Excellent sprint, Felix. Well done, mate. Certainly winning that group behind you there. Let's see if we can pick up on some further wheelers coming through here. Let's have a look here. A few gaps, can't see any right there. Going back down the other side of the river now. Let's see, John Brennan here. Here we go. John Brennan, honorary wheeler from the day. As I say, I think John is dialing in from France, possibly. Somebody who rides with Philip Riley over there. So a friend of the club. We've got friends in all corners of the globe. Putting out 3 watts per kilo there. He's in 153rd, but as you can see, everybody's got a race within a race, all the way down to the end. And that's what's really great about this platform. Look, there are discrepancies between turbo trainers and calibration of power meters. We all know at this level it's not 100% accurate. We're not doing weigh-ins. We're not doing some of the checks that go on in the Premier League. So it's really about your race in your race. Are you improving your watts? Are you getting better each time? Are you beating the people around you? And this is exactly what this is all about. Here John will be focusing on this group of 4 who will have been carrying each other through with their drafts, but now starting to think about the finish line and who's going to do the damage there. And here we go, only 46 seconds behind John. Here we go, here's Ollie, and this is a 44-kilometre course. 44 kilometres at young Ollie. As I say, apologies Ollie, I can't remember if you're 9 or 10 yet, it doesn't matter. This is a huge effort to be pushing out for that full race, putting out your wattage, which is 2.9 watts per kilo still. This far into that race, and 158. There's a lot of adults behind you there, Ollie. So that's a fantastic effort. Let's just go back up to John. Let's just see how he's doing in that group. We're about 12 minutes down from the leaders' times there, the winners' times. And I can confirm, just looking at the data that I've got, that it was Keith who took that finish across the line, a mere 10th or a 10th and a half of a second ahead of Neil Harris. So that crowns Keith as our champion, our inaugural 2020 online club champion. So congratulations to Keith there. Let's see if we can just, John's still got a little bit to go ahead of the finish line. We'll stick with him here and then we'll pick up Ollie actually. We've got about 900, 800 metres for John to the line there. He's in front of his group. Has he gone a little bit too early there? There is a group in front, you can see in the top hand right there, that they're closing in on. So he may be thinking about picking the draft up there, but if he's gone too early with that, those couple of riders behind that he was working with will pick him off there. There we go, they've closed up a little bit. 150 watts, giving them the thumbs up, the ride-ons to each other, respecting each other for the work that they've done as a group throughout that. Still at 33 kilometers per hour, putting out 3 watts per kilo, closing in on the finishing line now. About 400 meters to go, I think. Here we go, they're playing with each other a bit. They just need to be a little careful of the Danish rider just behind them, Jacobsen, only 2 seconds behind, who whilst they're toying with each other could put in a little bit of an effort, but I sense the legs might be starting to flag at this end of the field now. Let's see what John's got left within him. They're playing with each other a bit. They just need to be a little careful of the Danish rider just behind them, Jacobsen, only 2 seconds behind, who whilst they're toying with each other could put in a little bit of an effort, but I sense the legs might be starting to flag at this end of the field now. There we go. It looks like John's let them go now. Or has he? Is he playing with it? Is he playing to a plan? No. Here we go. As we come into the line, he's just taking that wheel, still putting out a steady 200 odd watts or so. No need to go too early yet. We'll see as the wattage starts to ramp up there as he starts to pick up his sprint. If it gets to super high wattage, the avatar comes out of the seat, the numbers on the right hand side start to go orange, and the other riders can see that. So the other riders can see when that wattage goes into an orange zone and who's putting it out, which can be a useful indicator within the pack of who's trying to put a strong turn in here. But here we go, John just putting out closer up to 300, and that might well just be enough to carry him through against his American compatriot there, competitor there as he comes across the line. So it looks like he's got that one wrapped up. Well done, John. Good to have you with us today. Let's see if we can go back through to Ollie. How's Ollie shaping up? So Ollie's coming up. He's got about 600 meters to go. We'll stay with Ollie and then we'll see if we can pick up Lucas. Ollie's picked up a wheel in front of him here, so let's see if he's got that sprint within him right at the end. He's still putting out, say, 2.5, 3 watts per kilo. And that's 44 kilometers at 193 beats per minute that he's putting out there. Not sure how Claire will feel about that. But a little bit of recovery, a little bit of pasta tonight, I suspect, Ollie, on the menu. Well done, mate. You have that while your dad's knocking back the ales. Here we go. 6.7, 8.3 watts per kilo now from Ollie, up to 187 watts there at one point. That's huge. That's huge. Come on, Ollie. Carry that through. See if you can get that draft. Can he get it right to the end there? I think he can. I think he's playing. Look, he's even got time for a drink. Come on, Ollie. 100, 200 meters to go. Coming down to 100. There we go. Oh, didn't quite take it, but a fantastic effort at that stage of the race. Let's just see if we can pick up on any further wheelers within this, and then we'll flick through to the standings and have a look at how that's all played out. I'm trying to look for young Lucas Burden in here as well. Who we know is a fantastic effort if he's kept going across that distance. So let's see if we can pick him up. I think here we go. Here's Lucas. So Lucas not that far behind. I think he's struggling now up the leg snapper, and that's understandable. That's been a long distance. 4 of those leg snappers already in his legs. Credit to him just making it over the 5th one, which, you know, if he makes this over, he will finish, and that's a huge effort from Lucas. Well done, mate. Keep going, get over that crest, and then you're over the worst of it, and you'll be able to bring that home. So well done to you, Lucas. We won't put too much focus on you there. I know what it's like when the camera's on you. Let's see if any further wheelers are left within the pack. I can't see any at the moment. So, I mean, it looks like in terms of our youth riders, it looks like Ed Bowyer's certainly taken crowning glory, followed by Felix. In terms of our junior riders, our very younger junior riders of under 12s, it looks like Ollie's done that from Lucas, but I think credit has to go out to all 4 of those, and they'll be positioned well for a future dedicated youth championships that I'm sure we'll be looking to develop with Bruce, either in Zwift World or on the excellent RGT platform in due course. So look out for that, but that experience will be great for them. So I think that is the last of our wheelers. Let's just make sure that Lucas is all safe and sound there. Here we go. He's descending now. One little ramp coming up for Lucas, and when he gets over that, he's back into the valley alongside the river and heading for home, and that's a fantastic achievement. So whilst that goes on, I'm going to see if I can bring up the results and share those with you all. And we're going to do that using the Zwift Power platform. So the Zwift Power platform is the platform that's used to provide official race results and a wealth of data behind it as well. One for the geeks and the nerds in terms of studying power and performance as well. But what it enables you to do it's what's used by the official race organisers to look for people with missing data or dodgy weight entries as well. And those results get checked. It can take overnight sometimes for official results to filter out and make sure that you've got your sort of true winners at the top. So we will look up those results very shortly while you're watching Lucas here. Let's have a look here. Those results get checked. It can take overnight sometimes for official results to filter out and make sure that you've got your sort of true winners at the top. So we will look up those results very shortly while you're watching Lucas here. Okay, we're going to switch over from Lucas and see if I can master switching screens now to... I appreciate you might not be able to see that. We've got Lucas going on in the background. I'm going to see if I can make that screen a bit bigger for you. There we go. So whilst Lucas is going in the background, what I'm sharing with you here is a screenshot of Zwift Power. So Zwift Power is a platform, as I say, provides a wealth of data for all the racers. And what I'm looking at here is the live race standings, and that's what I've been following throughout the race here. So we can see here all the race results. We can see that Keith took second in the overall race, 0.28 seconds behind the winner, the French rider, Berchet, in the end, not the Boudot, who I called falsely in terms of his watts per kilo. You can see here the 15 seconds watts per kilo data. That's their record data, not from this race, so that kind of gave me an indication who was potentially strong within that group. And there's Neil Harris just behind. So we'll scroll on through. We can see on the left hand side their race categories, so we can see a couple of B riders managed to get right up to the front, one within that A group, possibly outperforming his normal B category, and that might send him up to an A category in due course, for example. So there we go. There we had our lead group, covered by a second, a lone rider in the middle, and then back down to about 19, 20 seconds, a few riders that dropped off the back. And in the end there we go. James Curry taking the B title with the strength of his sprint. So we missed out on that on the coverage, but James has an extremely strong sprint on him. As we can see, his watts per kilo over 15 seconds is 10.7 compared to Rob's at 8.1. Rob stronger in the hills, I'd say, generally than James, but James very strong in the sprints, and that served him well there to take the Cat B title and winning his group there, taking him to 20th overall within the race and beating Rory as well. So fantastic performance from James there, coming in ahead of Rory, ahead of Michael, and Rob holding on there well. Excellent podium for Rob there as well. David Bagg then coming through in the next one of the A's. He dropped off that group there, dropping back around to the 30 seconds from that group. And then we're down to about 3 minutes before Craig came in. Another strong performance from one of our A riders, Craig. And then here an exceptional performance to take the podium place within the Bs from Ed Bowyer at 3 minutes 35, out sprinting, well, getting away from Pete and Julian in the end. Julian in at 4 minutes 18, strong position in the Bs. I can filter by categories in a second, but we'll scroll down here and have a look through some of the other strong performances from some of the other wheelers. You can pick up on the wheelers with the SDW there. One rider we might have missed out on at the top here is Keith Brown, actually. So let's have a look for Keith here. Keith was in that finishing group as well. Fantastic performance from Keith. Member of SDW, but he also races for another team as well, so I didn't pick him up, and he has a different shirt as easily in the race and the data, but within that finishing group and contesting for that overall club championships win. So a little bit overlooked by me there, but well done, Keith, and thanks for partaking today and taking, as far as I can see there, a podium position, third place. So congratulations to Keith there. So scrolling back down, you can start to see some of those performances there. Let's see if we can pick up on Tim Bottoms. There we go, our first C rider across the line at 7 minutes 30 down. So great finish from Tim, coming in ahead of our next C rider at Carlos Martinez at 9:30. So Tim clearly latched on to a strong group in front, which is all part of it, and managed to get that breakaway from the likes of Carlos, Mark and Bill. Excellent performances from Mark and Bill there, coming in and in that group with Carlos and with Sean as well. Al Penfold there, Sam Gibbs doing well, competing with the strong riders like Kieran, Kester Dobson, and then here we go, Felix, 12 minutes down, but very credible, only 2 minutes off some very strong riders and experienced riders like Kieran and those above him, and Carlos above him. Jeremy Page, as I say, race debut with the Wheelers. Great finish there, Jeremy. Great to have you on board. Donald Grant, we didn't pick up Donald in the racing much. Donald is a D rider normally, but has stretched himself and raced up to a C today, which is very respectful of him, leaving the D open to a couple of the youth riders, and competing within the Cs. Donald's known as the banker. Donald took a lot of the points in Group D throughout the British Cycling South East Series and helping the Wheelers take the victory there. So good to have you there, Donald. I know you haven't been riding recently, so that's probably not a fair reflection of your strength within Zwift, but good to have you racing today. And then we come down to what I'm checking out here is the first of our D riders from Southborough Wheelers, Ollie Fussell. Fantastic performance, only 18 minutes down in that race. Fantastic performance, Ollie. I think that wins you the D title, with Lucas coming in just behind you in second place, a little bit further down. But as I say, that's Lucas hasn't been doing a lot of riding within this environment here before, so just great to have you there. Now we can filter by SDW here, by our tags, just to get a different view of those results. And there we go, you can see the placings within the results. We can also filter by category. So let's just have a closer look at that within the A cat at our results. That confirms Keith, Neil and Keith Brown on the podiums. Now we can filter within our B cat, James Curry, Rob Burden and Ed Bowyer within those results. And there's a look at the full field. Darren might have had a dropout at the end there, or just backed off. He was very strong at the beginning, but nice guest wheeler taking part from South Africa there. Thanks for joining us today, Darren. In C group, Tim Bottoms taking the win from Carlos and Mark. So I think that's on race debut from Mark in terms of our scratch races. It may be, and it certainly is for Bill, I think. So fantastic to have them on board. Steve in there as well. Steve dropped us a note as we were going through it. His legs weren't there today, but great that Steve still took part today. And then to confirm in our D category, Ollie Fussell, followed up by Lucas. So fantastic performance from everybody there. Thanks all for taking part and joining. I hope that gave a few new viewers a bit of experience of what we do, and I hope it encourages you to maybe join us, not necessarily for something as competitive as that. We do group rides as well, and we also have some more friendly and relaxed racing and training rides as well. So have a look at the details on the Wheelers website on online cycling, or get in contact with me, Simon Miller, and certainly we can get you involved with that. So thanks for joining today. The official results will be posted up on the Facebook channels shortly. And well done to all our participants at all levels, and congratulations to our new inaugural 2020 Online Club Champion, Keith Henderson.